You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Kendellove Walker.
Hi, how are you doing?
So, Kendall, tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do professionally?
Oh, uh, let's go down the list here. I'm a holistic healer, holistic practitioner, an alternative medicine advisor. I do sex and relationship coaching. I am an oracle. I bartended for a little while, which is therapy. It's all therapy. Um, but first and foremost, I was a single mom, and I raised an amazing man. But that's been about the last 16 years of my life.
Now, with
So,
holistic healing, what do you mean by holistic healing? Because immediately when you say that, I immediately start thinking of Reiki energy healing.
yes, I'm a Reiki master. Yes. And massage therapist. I do cupping and ear candling. The holistic healing umbrella with me revolves not just around getting a massage. We go into depth where diet and exercise are concerned, yoga and meditation. It's a body, it's a physical, mental combination, really, on healing. Because I can work on your back all day. I can um, manage your muscle pain and even something structurally that might be off. But if we're not getting into your energy and your emotions, then your body is just going to regress back to those pains.
This is a hard one for me to understand only because I have family members that are Reiki masters in energy healing and do these types of things. But for me, it's just like we say, things are not meant for everyone. I'm a
No,
big
absolutely.
guy when it comes to putting like just being touchy feely. I'm not very, I don't like to be touched, but
Hmm.
especially just because the imprint I got from it is like my mom's a Reiki master. So whenever she tries to do her healing on me or something is when the most inconvenient time is possible. Basically, anything when you're holding something near an open flame, she comes over, let me heal your energies. I'm like, do you see I'm in the kitchen cooking right now? Like, this is the worst time ever. It's
Timing is a factor. Yeah, I would say. It's also something that how I was taught or trained. It's something that you have to have permission to do as well. I can't just get any one of my clients on the table and start messing with their energy. I've got to have their permission to go in that deep and heal in that modality too. So um but as your mom, I would say she's got your best interest at heart, and she's just trying to get in there and do her motherly duty and do good for you. So
There's a weird thing about it though when it comes down to the concept of how people give off certain energies and certain
uh-huh.
vibes that we use to communicate off of. I think people that are more empathetic or more in touch with their emotions, known to be sensitive people, tend to be the ones that can truly help in a scenario when it comes to energy healing. Being, first of all, sensitive or all these types of things that you would consider feminine characteristics. I
Hmm.
know when it comes down into psychic abilities, people that are tend to be more empathetic or more in touch with their emotions are known to be able to read off energies that people can give. Just saying that, people are going to be like, you're already talking magic. You're already talking just nonsense. It sounds like a fantasy or a tale. But I think we've all encountered very, very positive people in our life where just trying to be angry around them or just trying to be difficult makes it makes it really difficult because of the fact is they're so loving and so giving off of positive energy and positive good just overall feelings that it ends up trying to pick you up as well.
Yeah, well, emotions and feelings, energy is contagious, right? So it's who's, in my opinion, everything I say obviously is coming from my own education and opinion, but who is more powerful in this instance? The person coming in with the bad attitude, trying to be, angry or shitty or whatever, or is it the person who is grounded and secure in their own energy and their own happiness, and not taking things personally. Like, this person's upset, I'll honor that and I'll respect that of you. However, I'm in my own space and confident with my own emotions or feeling whatever I'm feeling. That's not going to affect me. However, it is, I feel in my, um how would I say? I guess like my goal, I suppose, is to have an impact, a positive impact on an individual so they leave their time with me, or just in passing that moment with me, feeling a little bit better or having a different perspective, so to speak, you know?
Well, I can
But
relate it to the simplest thing of trying to do this podcast. Usually after a podcast, I feel energized. I feel energetic mostly because I'm talking to someone and really get into a deep connection, into a conversation. It's a weird thing I think that a lot of people don't really realize is that we receive an immense amount of stress on a daily basis when it comes to just mental fractures or even physical fractures, whether it's just pain in your
absolutely.
body, but we choose to neglect it and lose really sight of all the detail that is deep down inside of us. Um, I think of people as a piece of glass, and every day we get a little fracture in that glass, and when we come home and we go to bed and trying to gloss over it or not truly try and focus in on the problem or the emotional thing that we're building up that might not seem like much, such as like,
Mhm.
let's say your car goes out, or you have to walk, or you have to do something that just didn't go your way that day. It might seem like, oh, it's over with, I'm not even thinking about it anymore, but inside you really are. Your brain hasn't had the chance to really, I guess, come to grips with what happened.
Well,
It doesn't really impact you.
the there's I think this has it's kind of under the umbrella of expectations. We, for most of us, we go through life waking up every day kind of with an expectation of what we have to do and how that's going to go phase by phase and hour by hour with whatever it is that's on our to-do list for that day. And if something isn't aligned with that expectation, then that throws us off mentally. Take all the expectation out of it and go with the flow, man. Just whatever gets put in your path, understand that there's reason for it, there's lesson behind it, and it might be something that's going to connect you on a deeper level later for something that isn't completely obvious in that moment directly. Like you get stopped at every single red light when you're in this hurry, and then it's because somehow the universe like kept you from getting into an accident, or it puts you where you needed to be at the exact moment that you needed to be there to meet this individual, and 3 months later you've got a new top-notch job or something. I mean, that's just one example of what I'm trying to sort of communicate here.
Kind of like the world being able to be balanced out, like we're all being
Yeah.
connected, and each individual intercurrence or maybe problem that might happen is keeping you from a bigger thing.
Or like when we have challenging times, like, or what some people will define as negative times, when you have those moments in your life, you got fired from a job, and that feels like the end of the world for a lot of people, or you get divorced, or just your relationship falls apart and you break up with somebody, or you get into a car accident. Those things that people define as these like negative times, I I will look back on my life, and I feel like everything like that happened to me always led to something greater and something better, and it grew me because I was paying attention. But you got to be paying attention. Take the expectation out of it and be aware of your surroundings and everything that's happening to you. It there's I feel a lot of purpose and reason behind it. So all of these relationships that you get into are are all for really good reason. It sounds to me like you've got a lot of belief in the metaphysical and
Well, you want to talk about anything about like getting let go from a job. I got let go the other day from my job. I had
how
a
do you
few
feel right now?
getting over it. I mostly feel like there's an acceptance factor too. I've been there pretty long, but it seemed like once new management came in, there was literally a place, like there was an intentional trying to get me out of the job in general. And
Mhm.
I started noticing it, and I even have evidence and proof of it as well, like whether it's like a videotape or something. I ended up
Mhm.
recording this trickery that was going on, and it's where you saw literally somebody just try and take away something from somebody, and I was just like watching it happen, and not being, I guess, at a, at a very older age, I guess, compared to them. They had the chance to kind of, oh, well, I'm ahead of you and I'm older than you, I know more. And that whole experience, like, I'm only in my 20s, so it's in my early 20s. So, trying to go against a bunch of management where they've worked in the industry for 20 more years than I have or something, it was like there was no really shot for me. Do I felt like, yeah, I think we all get through these moments into our life where it seems like everybody wants a piece from somebody and everybody wants to get
Mhm.
something from someone, where we really can't get anything for our own. It's much easier to be corrupt in this world than it is to truly do anything the right way. Me, with all the stuff that's happened so far, I try and pull myself out of slumps where it seems like the light at the end of the tunnel may never ever get there. You know what I mean? It may never come to that ending or come to that higher ground where something better comes along the way. But for me, I think putting your ability and having not really any faith, but also relying onto yourself to kind of get yourself motivated to get moving too, is probably one of the hardest things, but it's the answer. We
Yes.
steer away from new things for a reason. The reason why we steer away from new things is because it's not routine. It's not acceptance. I'm a man of routine. I have a routine every day. I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I go to the gym. I work out till 6. Just like when we were communicating before, because we are on a time difference. When you were messaging me, that's the first time ever I'll pick up my phone just to be able to answer anybody during my workout routine, because that is my stress relief. I do not feel complete if that routine does not happen. It's just like checking your phone in the morning.
Uh-huh.
But when you get thrown off a process or something gets thrown into something new, does that mean that it's bad, or does that just mean that it might be time for a change?
No, it's absolutely all about the change. It's about people don't want to be uncomfortable in their body with whatever they're doing, their job and their structure and their scheduling and being organized and what they know where their expectations come because they know what to expect and they don't want to be thrown off and get uncomfortable in their body. But it is time that you get uncomfortable in your body, especially when the universe is throwing. You said you just lost your job, and I'll bet you that probably anywhere from 3 6 months, maybe even a year, depending on how much you were not paying attention, if you were ignoring the signs, that you were getting thrown small little, like, uh, hiccups in what was going on in the office. That was sort of what was saying, like, you don't belong here. You are meant to do, you have a higher calling, you have bigger things, greater things to do. You're in your early 20s and you're already throwing this podcast out, talking to people, educating yourself on things that people are doing, understanding the world as it is from other people's perspectives. That's that's brilliant. That's huge for such someone who's a young age. You're an old soul, I would imagine. So you were getting told you needed to leave this. I don't know if it's corporate America or not. That's a term I like to throw around, but you were being told you got to get out of what you're doing right now. It's not for you. You've got other things you're supposed to be taking care of, and your path is written, man. You're just walking it.
It's
So
it's true though, because the fact is, like, I always get that response to people like, you're a lot older than you say you are, and I'm like, it's no fault, it's no benefit to my own art, it's none of my own intelligence. It's all from just doing the podcast with people and meeting so many different people and just having conversations with people from all over. I've expanded more than anything the education system could have taught me. But I think that's what's needed, because, like we're talking about before, where people need to learn to be more spontaneous. We're at primal in our nature. It is our ability to be spontaneous and also be very good problem solvers when it comes to the idea. Like, people back in the day when they were going out hunting, when they were gathering, they didn't know what they were bringing home. They didn't have a routine. They didn't have a style of, oh, we're going to go to this tree and go here and have a planned attack. It just didn't happen. But we're living in a society now that is all programmed. And what I mean programmed is, we it's meant to make you live this life that's a 9 to 5. It's meant to make you do these things where now we're seeing so many people become entrepreneurs. We're living in what seems to be like a new age, especially with the ability that all our devices have given us, has given us an opportunity for information. But how many times do we just sit on it and just do fucking nothing all day?
Well, I would, I feel like I've grown. I'm starting to grow out of that just because of the goals I've made for myself. I know what you're saying and I see that a lot. I mean, I'm going to school right now too. I'm going back to get my PhD, and in going to school, especially with kids your age, it's amazing for me to see how smart they are, how much genius is there, and intelligence and awareness. And at the same time, I can't walk through campus without them all looking down on their devices and practically bumping into each other. There's there's the pros and cons of it, but I think the mentality, if we start to get used to the devices and they become something more of a tool versus just a distraction, that's where the change is going to start to be made, because I feel like there's a lot of your generation, the younger generation, is becoming very aware of what needs to be done and the changes that need to take place. And that new age, that this whole new chapter and life that's being started is coming from you guys. And I can thank you and apologize for my generation and the generations before me for screwing so much shit up for you, because it
The
sucks.
the difficult thing is though, is that with technology, it's a very beneficial tool, but we're not using it in a very beneficial way. I think
Right.
now we're learning how to capitalize on it a little bit more, but so much of it is now being drowned out for the past few years of just being hate, or just being a place of that creates anxiety or depression and stress. See, especially with kids like my little nephews and stuff that are growing up, my cousins, everything, I'm seeing them with this wonderful device in their hand. But as much as I talk about it might be wonderful or I might shit on it, it's just because there's so much information out there that they probably shouldn't be exposed to.
Hmm.
While there's certain locking mechanisms and things that you can choose to, be able to, they can only view this amount of content, they can view this amount of content. They're interacting with the world, which is a good thing, but a lot of the world isn't good because of the way we've been living for so long.
Yeah,
You want
it's
to
true.
talk about being more connected as people than we've ever been in the entire history of mankind, but it relies on a thing which I've always talked about as being false connectivity. This connectivity isn't real. It's not face to face interaction, and that's what we're losing. See, it's okay if we have that connectivity, because obviously, me having a conversation with you face to face probably would have never happened without a device or something.
Sure.
But we also choose to lack the actual connectivity with people just that we know, people in our
Hmm.
everyday life in our street that we have the ability to talk to. When I go to a store, when I go anywhere, and just I always strike up a conversation. My phone goes in either in my pocket, either in my jeans where it's so tight it takes me like 10 minutes to pull out my giant ass phone, or it goes into my car because I don't want to ever lose that conversation that might either cheer somebody up or even maybe improve my day. You know, when a woman at a grocery store is having a really tough day and I walk up to her and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, do you want, is this all, just do you want a receipt or no?" I'm like, "I'm good with the receipt, I just don't need any more paper. Save it, just like a recycle it like a plastic bottle or crack a small whatever wise joke." They laugh and they cheer up and they realize like, "Oh, thank you for giving me that quick, nice interaction that actually might improve somebody's day."
Yeah, the lack of communication skills and social interaction is astounding to me. I don't know if it's a class that needs to be taught, but there is something that is definitely missing. Um, Generationally, I feel like I have it with my peers, but I am very social, as it sounds like you are. And I am very comfortable having conversations with perfect strangers and striking up conversations, and wanting to get that mental stimulation is so important to me, but I feel like it's been it's totally been removed as a dynamic that should be a priority because of the devices, when they can serve so much, like you said, for connecting us, but there's not there were no rules that came with them. It's just been this free for all.
I think a lot of it links into a lot of the stuff you're interested in too with sexuality as well. I think people, like we were saying before, with not being comfortable in their own skin. Now, stick with me on this because this is going to be a bit of a long haul for a short drink of water, I would say. As people, we're living in an imposter lifestyle. Maybe not me and you particularly, but we have this thing that has been instilled into us based on just the way we've gone with technology, the way we've gone with humankind a little bit in just the past 20 years or so. We're imposters. We wear a mask a lot of the time. Not maybe not me and you specifically, I'm talking about, but a pejorative amount of the population because we're constantly judging. We're constantly have this thing about us. Everybody judges, whether I do it, you do it. It might be a quick thought, and we might try to glance over it or something, but comparisons, all these types of things where you choose to judge somebody based on the things that they have or the way that they look or the clothes they wear, anything of this sort. It's been so influenced now into society where nobody ever wants to come out and have a conversation anymore because you never know what's going to happen when you do. It's become a fear aspect to the thing. So many times now, especially, it's easier to look on a device and say something rather than have a conversation with anybody. And you start to notice it when you walk into a store. And I've noticed so many people that just can't even hold up a conversation anymore. Me,
Hmm.
the weirdest thing about me is I have ADHD, so my brain is constantly firing off on random different things. I could be having a conversation with you in the napkin aisle or the whatever the toilet papers, whatever, and I immediately look over like, why did they pick a bear for Charmin? Like, why would you want that grisly thing like on there? Is it because it's like some stools aren't soft or something? I don't know. And I would just randomly say that, and you'd be looking at me like, how did we get on that? Like, I just met you. We haven't even said hello yet. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I guess I was thinking out loud. And just that quick little brief little whatever laughter, whatever awkwardness, it can get totally, that's a conversation, that's engagement. It's better than when you're trying to talk to someone and they just look down at their phone, go, yeah, okay, or they just don't
Hmm.
even know how to respond anymore. It seems like as much as I conversationalize in my everyday life, I will say this, and I've always said it, I hate people. I really, honestly, really do. But before I finish this statement, I don't hate the person that I can get on a one-on-one interaction, the true you, the one that I know that can actually talk and be real in the moment. So many people now are on autopilot. We give an auto response to everything. Like, yeah, how's your day going? Oh, it's going good. Okay, walk away. It's like, I didn't say my day was going good. I said, I'm having a terrible week. I feel like
Hmm.
I'm drowning right now and I need help. I need someone to talk to. All right, man, I'll see you later. Up, have a good one. Yeah, it's that whole thing. I hate that because you don't truly care. I tell people, if you don't care about how my day is, don't ask. That's all. I don't want to give you anything. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to do anything. But if I ask you how your day is, I intentionally mean it. I have so many people that be like, it's going good. Yep. I'm like, is it really going good though? Is it like, are you actually okay? Everything going on all right in your life? And they're like, what? I'm like, I'm asking you, is your day going okay? And they say,
Yeah.
actually, my week's been pretty rough, man. And I'm like, well, tell me a little bit about it. I care about you as a person. I'm going to take the individual, whatever amount of time, 15, 30 minutes, whatever you need to be able to get that. And that's not me being of a higher caliber. That's not me just caring more. It's a responsibility as people that we have. We all spend as much as we want to isolate ourselves, we all live around each other, and there's no way you're not going to come into an interaction with a person at some point. So why don't we take more time coming to the grips that this primal thing about us, which is being a person and caring about one another?
This is my occupational hazard to on the kind of like going back to the whole empathetic thing, and I can feel energy. I can walk into a room many times, and I can sort of zone in on people who are feeling good and who are having a great day and doing well in their life, and the people who are really suffering from depression, anxiety, PTSD, or something of the sort. And but I've come to understand over the years, many people, when you ask them how they're doing, from my perspective and from my um, putting me in my box with what I do for a living, just in general, is when they come for the massage, there's at least a solid, I would say, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour before and after the session where it's talk therapy. They want to talk about their stuff. But I have learned you've got to, I have to ask, do you want to heal or do you want to talk about healing? Because it's two totally different things. And a great number of people just really want to vent and complain and bitch and moan. And when you give them solutions, when you tell them, well, have you tried this? Have you looked into meditation? How is your diet? Let's talk about what your exercise program is like. How do you is your self-talk positive, or are you constantly putting yourself down? Those things matter. And I have a witnessed so many times that you give people solutions and then they've got excuses for why those solutions aren't going to do them any good. And every single excuse that you have, I'm going to give you a solution for. So we can go back and forth like that all day. I'm going to have ways for you to heal and for you to have a better life or a more positive outlook. But it's very common, and I've sort of stopped fighting it. There are just individuals who need to have that person like you come in and say, how are you doing, and then let them in that 5 minutes, vent to you or tell you what's happening, and then you two completely segregate, go your separate ways. That person probably feels a little bit better because he got to say something to somebody, um, and it was a safe space because he has no emotional attachment or she has no emotional attachment to you, and you were a platform or a sounding board for someone who needed that space from you, and you hold no judgment and you go on with your day. You know what I mean?
See, much
It's
like I can relate to you on the empathy factor. When I walk into a room, I can tell immediately, read everything about a person. It's probably with my mom being a Reiki master and all these things, she always brings up this thing like psychic abilities and stuff that she's in belief of. There's been some things I can't really explain that I've been starting to do. I used to have deja vu really bad as a kid, but as I've known to get older now, I'm getting my empathy feelings and readings about people being able to feel energies and stuff in a certain room. There's points where I can't even sleep in the middle of the night because I can feel how upset my neighbor is through my walls. And just explaining that sounds nuts, sounds crazy, but
not to me.
there's something about it, and it sounds like people are like, "What are you saying? You got superpowers?" I'm like, "No," but the reason why I get up so early in the morning and the reason why I choose to do most of my grocery shopping, anything when nobody is awake, because it's so much overstimulus. When I walk into a store, my mouth is shut. I'm quiet. I'll have a conversation with someone when they get in front of me, face to face interaction, but when I'm walking around, I'm constantly viewing and watching and reading so much information at once to the point like there are sometimes if I go to Walmart during a busy day, I have to only be in there 5, 6 minutes and I'm out and I go right into the car and I sit in there and I have to kind of recount like, am I going through a panic attack right now? And I realize it's because I've been overstimulated with a lot of aggression. There's just all of it's in the air. It's like when you walk in after someone just like passed gas or something and they sprayed a bunch of Febreze, like you're just getting overwhelmed by all these smells and everything. You're like, whoa, 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 why does it smell like pumpkin spice so bad in here? You know what I mean? That's what it's like for me. And
So if I could interrupt for a second, and I would ask you, what do you do to protect yourself, and how do you clear your energy before and after these types of encounters
Oh
because there's
God,
like,
you sound like my mom right now. She keeps
yeah,
trying to
well,
throw stuff at me. She's like, "Look, you're not handling this right." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "You can't just go into your room and just deal with it." I'm like, "Yeah, I can. I try and progress it
oh,
through my own head." But she's like, "That doesn't
yeah.
work." She's like, You're still in like a shitty mood." I'm like, "I'm not in a shitty mood." I'm just like, because what I started finding out about it like a few years ago, I took psychology classes for school, and I got really interested in the route of psychology. So I would watch these documentaries on people with mental health disorders and a lot of severe stuff like schizophrenia and all these things. And I watched I think it was like a 14-year-old kid try and burn his house down and kill his family because he thought King Tut was outside of his house trying to murder him. And just watching this, and these are hour-long videos I was watching right before school, everything. Like before I even go down to have my bowl of Raisin Bran or something. And I'm watching this, and afterwards, I walk downstairs and someone goes, "Hey, good morning. How's your day going?" And I'm like, "Don't talk to me." And they're like, "What?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, "I'm just so drained right now. I feel like someone just took my batteries out of me and I have to lie down or something. I don't feel like going to school today." And it's tough for me now because I know my mom, if she hears this, she'll keep tossing out books my way. She'll keep being like, "You got to read these, you got to do this." And I've talked to so many energy healers that say you need to find better ways to meditate and practice and be able to
Mm,
kind of drown out a lot of this stuff as well. But like I said, I'm not super open to the idea of it too because I'm a very independent person when it comes to handling my emotions as well. I like to be open with my emotions, but I also try my best to be able to take the worry off myself and be able to help someone else out. I like to push mine on the back burner. I like to handle mine in my own free time where I don't have to bother anybody with it too. And that's all
well,
from a sense of it's you never want to feel like you're a burden onto anybody.
no, but there are people like that. So you're almost contradicting your own one of your own personality traits because you're you're giving permissions to any friend, family member, or stranger alike to be this quote unquote burden on you, or to, to let loose on you because you're asking for them to 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 give you their whatever's going on with them. And when you ask them, how are you doing and what's wrong, talk to me about it, I'm here to listen. I know you or I don't know you, regardless, I'm that person you can speak to. And that individual may have that same mentality that you have, like, I don't want to be a burden, I don't even know this guy. Yet there are people out there with that same mentality as you, that they genuinely care. Or I mean, my circle, my tribe is all healers, all yogis and Reiki masters and holistic practitioners and people who are trying to save the planet, so to speak. I imagine that's just a box you can kind of put that individual style in, that you know what I'm talking about. But
Well, I can understand it because you're surrounding yourself with influences and like-minded individuals like yourself that think this way, where you're not going to see a lot of disagreement or hate or just even laughter in general from other people that don't think on this level. See,
well,
we have the ability as people to conversate, but not everybody gets along. Okay. I don't think any conversation turns into an argument. I think just two people reach different conclusions, but it's all about being open minded and understanding as an individual. I,
absolutely.
I've had people come on the podcast tell me some crazy things, and I never dismiss it. I always say that could be a way of thinking because I try and
Mhm.
understand the train of thought and the conclusions that a person can come to based on a lot of things I learned from psychology, like environmental influences and sorts. I
Yeah.
mean, how did you decide, like, what happened in your life? It seems like something really kind of threw you off that made you turn to this type of healing and this way of thinking. Because as much
Yeah.
as the old quote might say, the wisest people have been through the most.
Yeah. I certainly will say people, there are many people who've been through way more and way worse than I have. I was an executive assistant. I tried college right after high school, didn't really know what I wanted from an education, didn't really respect an education, and started doing executive administrative assistant work, secretary basically. I was a receptionist. But I kept getting fired. I kept quitting. I wasn't challenged, I suppose. Then I'm sort of shortening this. I'm leaving out a lot of details, but I was living in Venice Beach and I moved back to San Diego and got a job at a law firm. And I got promoted twice within 6 months. And then I got fired. And something in that moment when I got fired from that particular job, my son was 4 at the time, 5. So I was a single mom and I have this kid. And the first time in my life, I decided I'm going to collect unemployment and I'm going to figure out what I want to do and not just what I need to do. And I collected unemployment. I had a little beach shack. I lived right on the boardwalk down in Pacific Beach here in San Diego. And I was spending every day. I mean, I'm a total beach bum. I was out in that sand and I came across an article for an open house for a local um, college for holistic healing, for holistic medicine. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go to this open house and I'll check it out. And I went and immediately I fell in love and I signed up for the program that night. But everything, and this goes back to sort of what I was saying earlier, getting fired from that job and feeling like, holy shit, what am I going to do? I I am 31 years old, 30 years old. I have this child I'm raising by myself. I don't have an income now except for the piddly ass, unemployment I was collecting. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to survive. And I took that, I was getting paid, I don't know, 24 bucks an hour when I worked at that law firm. And I got a job making minimum wage, which was $7.80 or something at a salon, and was raising my kid on under $8 an hour, living in this little beach shack, going to school to make a better life for myself. And was the hands down best thing that ever happened to me. Completely changed my life, my perspective, my way of thinking, every, the whole entire way that I just looked at the world and people and their connections and myself in general. By the time I finished that program, I was a completely different person. I broke up with the guy I was dating who I was so enamored with for so long that I had grown into such like I came like I was like this cocoon and then came out this butterfly, completely different creature. And the relationship was on a different level. I had risen, I had grown, and I was not able to come back down to that level that I was at when I first started dating him. So ended that relationship and just started to grow my business. And it's been 16 years. And this is, you're talking to a person who was either fired or quit a job just about every 18 months. That's how the universe was telling me, you do not belong in front of a computer in an office all day. This is not who you are. And I was getting slapped in the face by the universe every year, every other year. And I finally listened. So I found something um, more in myself that I realized was something I needed to share and do for others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you came to a form of clarity in a
Mhm.
moment of lost. I mean, so many people right now that say like, "Oh, this, I'm just life just sucks." All these types of things. It's like, it's not that life sucks. It might seem like it at times. I've been there. I've had car incidents where I had to spend over $1.50 just to replace my car, and then eventually have
Mhm.
to spend even more a week later because the same thing happened. And it's like it feels like that light at the end of the tunnel, that clear spot where, you right through the storm where you're out of it and you're clear to go. It seems like it's never going to be there, but it takes a very big step as a person to try and remain positive in an area of dark as well. When you
Hmm.
get to that form, you realize that like maybe the life you were living wasn't exactly the one that was meant for you. Um,
Exactly.
it
It's
makes it makes it
it,
difficult, like I was saying before, about imposter syndrome, this type of thing, this lifestyle
mhm,
where we're judging and we're not being who we truly are meant to be in a relationship. Why a lot of it ends, why a lot of it comes to this, because you're never truly open or expressing yourself in the way that you should. I mean, we choose to stigmatize things like sex, things that are well known to us, when I've known so many people where relationships have just failed just because they weren't being open with their partner. And I'm
mhm.
like, you know how I know how stigmatized and how scary it's got to be to open up to someone, but if they truly care about you, then it won't ever deter them.
That did I tell you what I was going to school for? I mean, we didn't talk about, so I went back to school, so it's been 27 years. Holy shit, everything's so different. But I'm getting my PhD in sexology, which is all revolved around the sex and relationship coaching that I do. And the one common denominator is the communication between partners. And I would say at least 80% of the issues that I hear can be solved with different or better communication between the two
It's the
individuals.
it's the kink. I'm telling you, it's that kink
Mhm.
that everybody has, that fetish, whatever it is, you're afraid to open it up and express it. That's why I think it is a jealous factor to someone when they do porn. The whole aspect is it's not maybe that they're good on camera, they have a good body or something. They're just open about their shit.
Yeah.
Like
There's
literally.
no shame in sex. It's like there's so much stigma around it, and it's just sex, and we're all sexual beings, and we all were created and we're brought here because of sex. And it's something that I think really needs to be explored and looked at differently, so there isn't so much shame and stigma and guilt around it. And I had a friend, I interviewed her on my channel, Sex on Sundays, and her sister found out that she was going to do this, come on as a guest and talk to me about sex. And her sister told her, if you do that, I will disown you as my sister. And she is exactly the reason why I am pursuing this education and doing the workshops that I do, because her mentality about it, which I'll respect her boundaries. If she's a private person, then so be it. But the way that she handled it with her sister, I thought was completely um, unfair, disrespectful, and just unrealistic, really, you know. Um, but she's the individual I want to reach to say that it's okay to talk about orgasms. It's okay to tell your partner that you want to do something totally freaky and crazy. And it's okay to enjoy all of that, provided you're not harming anyone and there are no children involved. So you know, it's the thing that I really want to break through. Uh, do you know who Dr. Ruth Westheimer is?
I do know who Dr. Ruth is.
Yes. She was a sniper, apparently. I just learned this.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you learn that off a podcast with Dr. Drew?
no, I actually watched a documentary about her. I just came across the other day. I really want to reach out and write her a letter and try to get a hold of her. So that's kind of
Oh,
on my
I
checklist.
heard
But
a podcast, Dr. Drew Pradinsky, who used to work for
I know Dr. Drew.
yeah, he has a podcast called After Dark with one of my favorite comedians. And he was reviewing a video where a homeless man was shoving a bike up his butt. And it's pretty funny to watch Dr. Drew's reaction to it. But
Uh-huh.
he brought up that from Dr. Ruth. He was like, yeah, I worked on that with Dr. Ruth. And, you know, she used to be a sniper just randomly. Like, you start learning things like that. But when it comes down to it, though, like, the comedian I'm talking about, Tom Segura is his name. He has
Uh-huh.
a bit in one of his comedy specials on Netflix where it really brings to the factor of why sex and all these things people are afraid to show who, you know, what their interests are, because it's so stigmatized, because you feel like a weirdo, you feel like a freak because you have this thing, you feel like, oh,
Mhm.
I can't let anybody know what this is, oh, because
Yeah.
Jim that works the 9 to 5 over there, Jim doesn't have anything freaky about them. And Tom Segura goes, no, Jim's a fucking freak too. He likes to
Yeah.
be like beat up. He likes to have a cinder block land on his head. He likes all this shit. And it's because we repress ourselves so much in our everyday life that we're afraid to show who we truly are, like truly express ourselves. Like, I don't have anything I guess you would consider weird. I work out so much that I just don't have the interest in needing to have sexual relations with anybody. It pissed my girlfriends off all the time. He's like, why don't you ever want to? I'll have my moments where I get like, let's do it now or something. But there's just this thing that I'm really looking to connect onto a deeper level. Like when it comes to just being able to sit in a room and stand in the room with a person, you know what I mean? Like have a conversation. Like I've had relationships where I'm sitting there like, what do you want to do tonight? Oh, I don't know. You want to go out to eat? You want to go to a movie? You want to go, what do you want to do? I'd rather just sit here. It's like, okay. And then it's silence watching a movie. I'm like, this isn't a relationship. What is this? Like, this isn't fun for me. This is just boring. Like, I want to be able to,
You need mental stimulation.
I want
That's
conversation, damn it. Jesus, get on my
all
podcast,
normal.
girl. Let's talk about all our emotional problems.
It's all normal. It's all normal. It's my boundaries, I draw the lines where it's non-consensual. It's got to be consensual, and it's got to be legal, and no children. And I'm not into the bestiality thing myself. I don't understand it. I know some people are. I have my own. It's not consensual, so I don't really think that that's something that I think that should be taken off the list. But everything else, there is a kink, there is a fetish for just about anything you can think of, and take a human sexuality class on kinks and fetishes, and it will blow your mind, and you will leave that education feeling 100% normal. I
What's
promise you.
what's one of the most interesting things that you found doing education of that sort?
Well, so some time ago, a girlfriend of mine decided that I needed to go on online dating, on those dating apps, and
Amish farmers meat.com.
no, this was when Tinder kind of first hit the scene. She's like, "Go on Tinder, you're gonna love it." So I joined Tinder, and it wasn't really for me. And I like younger guys, and it's an average of about 10 years younger. And I've always dated younger guys, but the older I got, the wider the age gap got. And so she's like, go on there and find somebody who's your own age. Go on there and meet guys who are closer to your age. Well, what I found myself doing was moving the age bracket back every couple of weeks because I wasn't finding anyone I was attracted to or mentally stimulated from. I was just it my guys my age for some reason didn't really appeal to me. So then I pushed this bracket back, and now I'm back in late 20s to mid 30s age bracket again. And the guys that are reaching out to me, and this is for, I'm sure my story is same across the board for most women, very vocal, very forthcoming, very bold in what they wanted to do to me and with me, and hiding behind their phone or their computer, hiding behind their devices. They were able to say anything that they wanted to say and not worry about really being judged, because at any moment they could just drop the communication. So I was so intrigued by this that I joined about 7 different dating apps, and started swiping right on as many guys as looked somewhat interesting to me, or where their profiles seemed, they caught my curiosity. And then I was just asking questions and sort of kind of like getting information, or promoting the
Testing the
community.
waters, I get it.
Yeah, well, just to get uh like material for a book that I'm writing. So uh, they all have nicknames, so no one's real name is used, but I've got down their ages, and then all of their kinks and all of the crazy shit that they were into, um, kind of chaptered in this book. It's just all about online dating and swiping right. Swipe right is what the name of the book is. So I was really not shocked, because I've always been very sexual since a very young age. I was a very sexual person. So nothing so much really surprised me. What was really shocking to me was the fact that when I would try to make time for the guys who were talking about wanting to meet up, it nothing, not one thing, it didn't materialize. To actually meet face to face was not something that actually ever happened. And I was like, wow, it's really all about just getting satisfied through communication and living that life. Like, what did you call it? You called it an imposter?
Yeah, it's like imposter
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yeah. And living like portraying whatever. And who knows if even half of those profiles, their pictures were, actually them. Who's to say? The whole catfish thing, um but so the more that I was being stood up, or not, like the guys were not, it was always like, yeah, let's get together, and then it never manifested. The more I was even more interested in getting more like material for this book, and um sort of uh, kind of not manipulating it, but I wasn't going into it with any real intention. It was, my intention was for writing purposes, so in essence
I've only connected with people that were girls that were older than me, or have been all my girlfriends. I've had girlfriends that have kids. I've had girlfriends that are just maybe a couple of years ahead of me. There's just something for some reason, it's not that I'm more attracted. Like, obviously looks play a factor, but it doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what any of that stuff is. I've dated hell. I mean, if you looked at any of my past girlfriends, most of them are half black, and that's only because it's just the type that go after me. I'm not a very, what I would say, like a lot of girls are like, men just want to go after their thing. They want to be able to ask the girl out. Not me. I'm the type of guy that's just friends with everybody. And what really gets me is when you show interest, because it's not that a fear of rejection aspect. It's more like I don't want to feel like bothering anybody or wasting time by reaching out and then hearing the common no or something. I'm just sitting there like,
Mhm.
hey, I look like fucking Tom Holland. If that's what you're interested in, cool. And it's just this thing about it though. Like, I like it. Like, all my girlfriends have approached me and asked me like, how you doing? Or, hey, can I get your number? I bought a candle at a store where I just randomly met a girl, and I'm like, hey, I remember you from middle school. Like, you used to ride my bus. And she's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. And we chatted it up for a minute. She's like, you're buying a candle? I'm like, yeah, I thought I might try it out. um
Hmm.
Eventually, I get a message on Facebook later from that girl, and she's like, how'd that candle? And I was like, oh yeah. And then we started communicating and getting to know each other a little bit. But it's the factor is, when I'm attracted to girls that are older, is because people that are in like their late 20s or something, who are not partying a whole lot anymore. I'm not a party guy. I'm in my 20s, 22, but I've never bought a legal drink of alcohol. It affected my life at a young age, and I never wanted to be that guy. I never wanted,
Mhm.
I'm always the one that picks up my friends at the bars and stuff. But any girl in my age range, any girl younger, they're all out partying. They're all out getting drunk every single night. I'm the type of guy that's like, you can drink if you want while I'm at the party, but I'm perfectly fine just having a water or having like a drink or something, like a diet soda or something.
It lowers the vibration. Yeah, I agree. I went from, well, when I bartended, I mentioned I bartended, and I think for, oof, I don't know, 4 years, I'll say I was probably drunk for 4 years straight bartending, because that was just the way it was. You keep up with your followers and you entertain them, and it's a one man show, and it becomes like routine, and everything revolves around alcohol. Everything. There's no social activity without cocktails involved, and people don't know what to do if they're going to do something and they can't bring their six pack. It's really mind blowing. But when I was living that lifestyle, I was in that mentality myself. And once I got out of it, oh boy, did I get judgy, and then I go back and I see the people that I, bartended for, 10, 15 years ago. And I'm like, wow, are you doing anything else? Are you, is there anything different in your life from 10 years ago that you're doing today? And I mean, the alcoholism factor itself, it's just,
I mean, I live
it's,
in a
it's, it's
tourist town.
disheartening.
I live in a
Yeah.
tourist town, bars on every corner, and it's winter
Mhm.
time right now. So what's happening is there's nothing. This whole town is dead, but every bar is open. So everybody I know is out drinking every single night. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting here dealing with a whole bunch of shit. Like, hey man, I'm trying to find a job, trying to do this, and I got all these things in my head, and I'm trying to process on my own. And if you go to talk to someone and you realize like this person's way worse off than me, but why are they so much happier? And I know that's a selfish thing to judge like that, but I'm looking and my buddy's like, why don't you just come out to the bar with us? I'm like, dude, I mean, I'm okay. Like I'm all right. I don't need to go out and party. And he's like, yeah, man, well, I had a long day at work, and then he starts rattling off a list of problems. I'm like, how are you dealing with all that? And then they're just like, oh, I'm going out drinking tonight. I'm like, this is why it's so big at this age, because you don't know what you want to do. You are starting to realize what the real world is once you get out of school. And after that year or two, it starts to set in like, holy shit, what am I going to be doing for the rest of my life? And it really gets scary when you don't know.
That is, so I noticed, the therapeutic measure in it. This is where a lot of people found their answers or their therapy in the bottom of their bottle, because this was how they avoided it. So they did it put them on that fuck it. I don't know if I can say that attitude where it didn't matter, because 3 beers in or 2 cocktails in, all of a sudden now, well, whatever. And that was the mentality that I started noticing. They come in feeling so shitty and then get halfway through their first few drinks. And that would be where it was cyclical, and I heard a lot of people say, I'm going to quit drinking for a week. That was it. That was the goal. Just stop drinking for a week. And they were back in 2 days. And these marathons that they would go on, these oh, what did we call them, weekend warriors, who were nose to the grindstone Monday through Friday, and then Friday evening hit, and from Friday until Sunday it was just shenanigans, total debauchery. But that was the way that they avoided those real world questions. And what are you going to do? And you don't have to have one dream or one goal. Shit, you can have 10, follow all of them, make yourself happy, but grow yourself and move forward and get out of that bar stool so you can actually experience something more about yourself. And if you're needing to drink, then what is it innately inside of you that you're not dealing with, that you're avoiding? Is we all need therapy, all of us. I don't know anyone who doesn't need some therapy
Look,
in one
even
form.
therapists need therapists. I try
Yeah.
to tell
Oh
them
my
that.
God. We need it the most. We
I,
need it the most. Oh my.
when I took psychology, I started realizing I went to my own therapist and I was talking to her. I was like, on my first session, it was a one and done session. She was the type that just sat there, nodded her head, and didn't really give you any helpful thing. But I was talking to her. I was like, you know what? After talking, I just realized that I just needed to vent. It's like I don't do it. I'm very, very like I became introvert after high school. I just became working out all the time, school, work, workout, school, work, same routine for the longest time. And I've said it before. It's kind of how I came to the conclusion of starting this podcast too. After a few years of doing that, it got really, really boring, and I was getting in a very very, very dark spot where it was like, damn, if this is what life is, this is just some boring shit. All my friends are out partying and I don't want to do that. So what am I going to do? And I had a buddy call me. And when I say buddy, I mean me and this kid, junior and senior year, just sat and ate lunch together. So 30 minutes a day for
And that,
for a quick period or something. And it's been 5 years since I've ever talked to this kid. And I get a random call on my phone and I see it's his number. I pick it up and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So, I'm like, all right, what's going on here? He's probably
Mhm.
drinking or something. And
Yeah.
I answer and I go, hello? And he's like, hey man, what's up? How you doing? And, after, talking, I'm like, dude, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Are you all right? He goes, no, I'm really not. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And he tells me that he's on top of his roof right now, and he feels like his whole life's controlled. And we ended up talking for a few hours. And I'm like, dude, you are set to go to college. You were a baseball star out of high school. You had everything. Your parents have money. You have all this stuff. You were the teacher's pet, straight A's. What's going on? Like, I feel like my life, I've just been living a lie. Like this, nothing I wanted to do, I've ever done. I've always been controlled. And I ended up having him come on to the podcast and talk. His name's Brooks Holloway, very good guy and an amazing dude. And after talking to him, we realized we're both going through the same shit, just in two completely different scenarios. So where people think like, oh, it's just me, everything's happening to me. Don't ever think that. Like, we all have the ability, and the just in general, we never have, like, I don't even know how to say this, but we have the ability to go through depression. Everybody does. We have better ways of hiding it, and we have better ways of overcoming it too. But everyone has their faults. Everyone has their weak moments. And truly realizing that puts into more of a perspective that it's not just the world shitting on you. It's going to end up being okay. You just have to focus and look towards something that you want to do in pursuit of your own happiness.
Yeah, well, that's life. Ebb and flow is imperative. You cannot have the positive without the negative. It's ebb and flow is life, and we have to have our ups and downs, our good times and our challenging or bad times, if you want to use that term. But there's been so much, it's like unacceptable now to feel anything other than happiness, and if you do, you need to go on antidepressants. If you feel depressed on any level, minor or major, then that is, by societal standards, from my experience as Eastern medicine practitioner, holistic healer, and alternative medicine advisor, anti-anxiety medication and antidepressants are so common now. They're just prescribed to anyone and everyone for any reason.
They're not
Um,
always the answer though, for sure, because I suffer
no, they're
from
not.
severe depression, and I ended up taking those for a brief amount of time, and after not having them forever, I just completely cut myself off, which is like the worst thing you could possibly do with something
Yeah, oh
like that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it ended up messing me up a lot more than I thought. Like, it ended up, my whole perceptions on a lot of things changed. But what I've always tried to communicate, especially in relationships too, where a lot of it ended because of this, I've been going to the gym every day for 7 years. December 30th was my seventh year, just every single day hitting it. That's the one thing that's remained constant in my life, and it's the one thing that keeps the demons away. When I mean keeps the demons away, it helps level me out for my day, helps me relieve my stress. Obviously, there's moments where I'm like, fuck this shit. I don't feel like going and working out today, but I do it anyway because the feeling and the after effect I get from it truly helps me keep a clearer head. I just think more people, it doesn't need to be going to the gym, it doesn't need to be doing anything of that sort. It's just about finding something that can bring that relief to you.
yeah. Well, how many doctors talk about the gut brain connection? It's like 80% of our serotonin is made in our gut. And this is where diet comes in. Diet alone, you don't have to have anything traumatic happen in your life. If you're eating like shit and you're not getting the nutrients and the vitamins and minerals that you need, and your gut is off, that's going to affect depression levels immediately. And doctors don't talk about that. It's easier for them to prescribe medications, but exercise is that's a huge antidepressant right there. Exercise alone can help with such a large percentage of it. But how many doctors, Western medicine practitioners, are going to say to their patients, how about this? How about we change your diet and your exercise program for the next 6 months first and see if that works? And when I say change it, like, you've got to be on it. You can't just, change your diet for 2 weeks and exercise, like go for 4 walks and say that you tried and nothing worked. You've got to be on that shit for, yourself. You've been doing this for what you said, 7 years. So that's, and I know when the whole like thing about the runner's high, like that's real. When I was addicted to running, when I was into running and I buckled my ankle, I was off my feet for 2 weeks. I started feeling like I was slipping into a depression. And I was told not to run for 3 months. And after 2 weeks, and I started feeling depressed, I went out running again and re-injured that same ankle, and then I was off my feet for 6 years because of it. I didn't listen to my body. I didn't listen to my acupuncturist, who was the one that told me, do not run for at least 3 months. But exercise alone is a game changer
That
for a
runner's
lot
high, first of all, that cortisol rush that you get afterwards, man. You can literally cut me off in traffic. You can take my kidneys. I don't give two shits. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm so
you're in
chill.
the clouds. I
Ev-
know it. I
Everybody
know
knows that if you're gonna try and get anything from me or something that you know I'm gonna say no to, if you just ask me after I get done with a workout, I'm like, yeah, here's my card, just take it. Like,
it.
I'm just like, I don't even care. Like, you leave me a water and a granola bar or something.
Yeah. And
It's
that's
it's a truly an experience. You know, it's not going to be for everyone, obviously, but just doing something, whether it doesn't even have to be going to a gym. It could just be doing woodcutting,
right.
something where you're keeping not only your mind active but your body as well. You're going to see a progressive into a better future, and first of all, a better today as well.
But you've got to have patience. That's the biggest thing, because everything natural, anything holistic isn't going to work in 20 minutes like a pill does. Is not going to change what you need to change, like going in and having your cocktails. You've got to have patience and you've got to stay completely loyal to it. But it will work. You just got to find, like you said, you've got to find what works for you as an individual. So if that's gardening, if that's dancing, if that's working out at the gym at 2 a.m. like you do, crazy. Um,
I'm an insomniac.
the- well, that's mental stress. You said you're ADHD, so
It's a mix of ADHD and
mhm,
also being able to tell that my neighbor had a really bad day just through
yeah,
freaking. Plus, I do most of my, I don't know what it is. I like to take a nap during the day, and then I find that in the
you're
middle
a
of the
night
night,
owl. Yeah,
yeah, I like it.
yeah.
Nobody's
Well, you're
awake.
also, what did you say, 21, 22? You're so young too.
22. I'm in 22, bed at 6 p.m., up at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm as
I
old as
remember.
my grandpa. My grandpa makes fun of me. He's like, "You going to bed?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You got your night pants on?" I'm like, "Got my night pants on."
Well,
Well,
if you're functioning, so
exactly. I'm not just doing.
uh,
Hey, at least I'm not out partying. I'm doing something a little bit more beneficial.
yeah, productive. That's right. So
Well, Miss Kendall Love, I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast.
my pleasure. I'm glad we connected, and it was worth a little bit of a journey we took, I'd say.
For sure, it was definitely an adventure. I want to give you here a minute at the end, kind of to promote your blog and also promote a little bit of your content as well.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much. Well, I'm in San Diego, and since it's a cross country thing, the oracle readings is really what I've been focused on. Sex and relationship coaching, which can all be done over the phone. So I can I leave my number? Can I do that? Just
If
put
you
my
want to
number.
put
I
your, if you want
I
to put
put
your
my
number
number
out
out
there.
there. Yeah, this is through my business. If
Oh,
you
so
want to
it's a
book,
business line, not a personal line.
it's both. It really is.
I don't know if you want to do that on a podcast, but go ahead.
Well, I don't have to answer the calls, but the oracle readings, the sex and relationship coaching. You mentioned the Out of the Blank podcast for a discount. I'm gonna give that to all of your listeners.
Oh Jesus, I don't think you know my listeners. They're gonna be doing some freaky shit. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's what I'm here for. Let's talk. It's just sex, right? So you can call me and book your appointment, 619-368-7272. And I'll be launching the website soon. So if you're interested in that, you can get that information from me as well once it gets released. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let
And
me give
I'm
my
guessing that's why they call you Dr. Love.
Yeah, that was a nickname that I inherited from some clients. It got passed on to me. So such an honor as well as a responsibility that I do my best to live up to and take very seriously. So, Dr. Love, and that's, you'll see me in about 6 years with a PhD running my business barefoot because I do not wear shoes.
I'll be
So,
coming for a service.
good. I'd love to see you.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank, and stay tuned for our next episode.